Hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, live from Wimbledon on day 13 of the Championships. I'm Catherine Whittaker, this is Matt Roberts, this is David Law, this is five-time Wimbledon women's doubles champion, your friend and mine, big with dads, it's Pamela Howard Shriver. Pam.
With a bumblebee intro. That's awesome. Good to be with you.
She started with a pun.
We're off to a flyer.
We are so back. We have a crowd. A hardy crowd. Not just a crowd that have bought us beers.
Oh, bless
So
them.
we're in good shape tonight, folks. Thank you for bearing with us through that absolutely epic men's doubles final. We will touch upon that later. David watched every single ball of
I
it.
commentated on match point. I wasn't expecting that. It was quite dramatic.
Yeah, I'm glad that we have a correspondent for the men's doubles final because we were slightly distracted.
Finland.
In the build-up. Oh my goodness, we are so back. Please do, if you're enjoying this, and frankly, why wouldn't you be? And you are with us live on YouTube. Please do hit that like and subscribe button. We really would appreciate it. It's Pam, I mean, it's always a good day to have you, but it feels a particularly perfect day to have you today. The day that a new Wimbledon women's singles champion was crowned, Barbora Krejcikova defeating Jasmine Paolini 6-2, 2-6, 6-4 to lift her second Grand Slam title, her first in singles at Wimbledon. How did you experience the match?
Well, I quite enjoyed it. I found Paolini, obviously I didn't enjoy her 2 days ago in the coaching box for Donna Vekic. But I found the contrast of styles, and I love the momentum swings, and then I like the fact that the closest set was the final set. So I had everything in it. Both players had great stories, and in the end, I thought Krejcikova, given her experience winning 2 Wimbledon doubles titles here, I thought it might help her. And the fact she'd won a major before, and I think it did help her. But here's to Paolini, 2 major finals in a row. Wow.
Wow, indeed. Yeah, Matt, you were the one of us that picked Krejcikova in 3.
Thank you.
Given that, though, was it the match that you expected? Was it obviously was the scoreline you expected broadly, but was it the match that you expected?
No, not really, actually. I thought that Krejcikova might grow into it and get a grip of the match in the third set and sort of take her level above what Paolini could live with. But actually, that kind of did end up happening in the third set. But actually, Krejcikova came out playing phenomenal tennis. Like, I wrote down surgical in that first set. Like, it's so precise, Krejcikova's tennis, when she plays well, and she's able to mix up her attack like really impressively. She can hit with height, she can hit with flat balls, and she was just dominating the match in that first set. It was a outstanding performance from Krejcikova, which I didn't necessarily see coming straight out of the get-go. So I kind of thought as Paolini worked her way into it, she might sort of end up using that momentum and going on to win as the match was happening, because Krejcikova had a real energy lull, I felt, in that second set. Like, it just seemed to all drain from her. The intensity that had kind of defined her tournament wasn't really there through the middle portion of the match, but she got it back, and she was kind of the better player in that final stretch of the third set, taking over with her forehand. And yeah, like, it was a really, really impressive performance, and honestly, like, almost a mirror scoreline to her French Open final, which she won 6-1, 2-6, 6-4, and this one was 6-2, 2-6, 6-4. Only one game different. Like, maybe that's just how Krejcikova plays Grand Slam finals, like fast start, dip, and then come back strong at the end.
David, you and I were Paolini in 3 people. How different was it to the match that you were expecting? Because personally, obviously after the first set, I was thinking Paolini in 3. What a ludicrous prediction from me. But then once Paolini got that second set and had that huge energy burst, and Krejcikova looked just kind of a shadow out there. She looked a ghost. I was feeling good about my prediction, quite honestly.
Me too. That first set, in terms of the way Krejcikova came out, and actually the way that Paolini did look a bit rattled early on. I don't think she was expecting to be faced with quite that. But I suppose in a way, Pam, it was a bit similar to how she came out against Donna, really.
Yeah,
and
actually,
faced similar problems.
When I watched the way Krejcikova came out, I thought she was sort of in the zone a little bit of that first set, which was a lot like Donna in the first set in the semifinals. But credit to Paolini for believing and knowing that, okay, reset time out of the gates in the second, took command. Unlike in the semis, the match was really close the first few games, whereas here Paolini immediately kind of drew away, which kind of made the final set. It was like all even, final set. Paolini held serve for one love. I always think it's such a huge advantage to serve first in a final set. But then Krejcikova just used her maturity and her experience at majors and stayed calm until that last game. It was fascinating last game.
Yeah, because it was like through 2 sets they hadn't really played well at the same time. Krejcikova was so good in that first set, but Paolini was off, and then it was kind of the reverse in the second set. But yeah, like the final stages were so dramatic in this match. Like you really didn't know who was going to win until the last ball, and because Krejcikova had the break, but she was getting seriously tight in that final game, and people have been pushing Krejcikova for the backhand list, and look, it's been a great day for Krejcikova, but I am sorry to say, if your backhand deserts you in a moment of need like that, in the way it did in that final game, categorically not on the list. Like, she couldn't hit a backhand.
Not ever. After today,
it's going to be tough to come back.
Ooh.
It's just
No,
one
okay,
week.
but wait a second.
She couldn't hit a backhand in that final game.
Yeah, but on your backhand list, who has won a Wimbledon singles title?
Yeah, but it's not a Wimbledon singles title.
I think it
list,
might be
Pam.
none of them.
Okay, fair enough.
No, Rybakina has.
Okay, all right.
Anisimova and Anna Bogdan. Still, it's in the best is yet to come,
Best
in the
is-
words of Lorenzo
yeah.
Musetti's tattoo.
But it was impressive how, like, even without that fundamental part of her game, like, her backhand is great. Like, without that fundamental part, she still had her serve and she still had her forehand, and she was getting that forehand into play really well, like, when she needed it. It was really impressive, even if, like, the backhand was so tight.
Pam, I wanted to, if you can go back to the trauma of a couple of days ago. We won't linger there too long, but I think we all, over the last couple of months, 6 weeks, French Open and here, I think that was, for all of us at various different points, our first experience of watching Jasmine Paolini live in the flesh. And it's taken seeing her live up close to really get it and to really understand what a force Jasmine Paolini is. What was your experience of being in the players' box for Donna? Obviously, I know you were very focused on Donna, but what was the Paolini experience that day?
Well, I was really impressed. I actually watched her live as soon as Donna won her quarterfinal on court 1, which was first up. The Navarro Paolini quarterfinal was second on, so I was able to get out to center court to watch in person, which was a little bit of an intimidating watch because Paolini played like a perfect match. But I knew it was a totally different matchup. Navarro's game and what Donna could bring to the table. But so the rest of the team was a little bit like, oh my goodness, Paolini's like out of this world. I'm like, no, but here's some areas where if Donna does it well. So, I mean, but Paolini, what I love is her resiliency and her attitude and her energy. And it brings the crowd in, which was something Donna asked me afterwards. She was like, why did the crowd want Paolini? And I didn't say it so bluntly. Well, because she's the happier, like, bouncy one and also a lot shorter. And people like short, they equate short with underdog. But I like everything about Paolini. What I want to know is Paolini going to be Zvonareva of 2024, like 2 straight major finals kind of out of the blue? Or is she going to be in the mix for the coming few majors? And we don't know. We do not know.
What would your hunch be? What would everybody's hunch be on that?
My hunch is that there's more to come. Not necessarily lots more Grand Slam finals, but performing well at big tournaments. Because it seems to me there's fundamentally a very strong game there. There's not that much wrong with it. but second serve is clearly attackable because Donna showed that, and others will as well. I suppose, what went wrong with Zvonareva? If you think back, she had a strong game, and I guess it's how you handle the
there you go, the intangibles.
situation,
Yeah, it's how you handle the pressure of being somebody. But she's already shown she rose to the top 10. Her follow-up from the French, she looks pretty good, but I'm just saying, in the history of women's tennis recently, you don't go to the bank with how they're going to follow up. I want to see how she does at the U.S. Open and the Australian Open, and then can she stay, around the top 5?
It was interesting in her post-match press conference afterwards. I asked her about her I Dream step-by-step line that she gave us in Paris, that incredibly lovely line that was also really insightful about her as a person and a tennis player. I said, back-to-back Grand Slam finals, world number 5 now. What's the next step of the dream? And it was a brilliant but very unsexy answer. The answer was consolidating, making sure of this, making sure that this feels secure and sustainable before I think about the next step. And I think that was as much as everyone in the room wanted this sort of glamour quote about I'm going to come back next year and I'm going to win this thing, heart-wrenching on Jabeur style, it probably was the smart thing to say, and the smart attitude from Paolini, which is her all over, isn't it? Her attitude is utterly exemplary. I think if I had to choose a tennis player who the attitude of a tennis player to emulate in life and in tennis, I would choose Jasmine Paolini.
Yeah, she does make you feel that that's real too, that she's just going to get back to work. I don't know what happens when you reach 2 Grand Slam finals. You did it, Pam.
Only one.
Yeah, but you did it, and you did it really
Just
young.
the one,
You did it so much younger than her, and I just wonder how life changes for you, because suddenly you're presented with opportunities that you wouldn't have had before.
And the other thing is, do you think how different is it doing it late?
100% you're more mature.
Right.
So I feel like she has a really solid team. I think it's set up a lot better than the Zvonareva situation. But who knows? We may never see her again in a major final, but she's got 2, and I do think she'll be a force. You can't win this many clutch matches, big matches, without having it in you. And I feel like her game is solid, right? It's not like what can go totally off.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
And Renzo Furlan is doing a great job, right?
Yeah, and he's solid. He was a solid player too. I really like the way he, by the way, treated Krejcikova when she won, and he opened the door.
I
for
showed a
her
good example the other day, though.
You did, Pam.
That was classy,
Thank you.
Pam.
It was all went up and shook all of their hands.
We were watching from
commenting on
across
that.
the court, and you stayed for for Paolini's interview as well. And I can only imagine how you felt in that moment. But
Horrible. And I
class.
knew I really wanted to get to Donna, but anyway, the point is, the boxes are so close up there. They're unbelievable. You feel like you're sitting on top of one another, which is a subject for a different time in this on-court coaching time. They do need to separate them eventually.
Because you're hearing every word they say.
Yeah, and it's
vice
like
versa.
you're not as comfortable. You don't want to give signals. You feel like they're looking at you. But not that they can't from the other side of the court, but you just don't want to be that close. But anyway, I thought the sportsmanship was terrific.
Just on the point of whether Paolini will kind of do this again at a slam, it's quite interesting to me now that Wimbledon is the open slam on the women's tour right now. It hasn't been for the men at all, Djokovic and kind of the big 3, and now Alcaraz have had a real sort of gatekeeping of Wimbledon. But we've had 8 different Wimbledon champions now in 8 different years, and it does feel like the other slams, Iga Swiatek's kind of got Roland Garros on lockdown. Sabalenka's won back-to-back Australian Opens. Okay, the US Open, I think, always feels to me like it can throw up some surprises with it being at the end of the year, but there aren't that many opportunities, and Wimbledon does feel like the open one, as I said, and Paolini has really shown that her game can work on the grass, even though I still think sort of naturally it feels like clay would be her surface. It's just Świątek's such a problem there.
How bizarre is it that Paolini had won how many main draw matches at Wimbledon before this year? 0?
Yeah.
Okay. After Vondrousova last
Right.
year had won 2? I mean, how bizarre is that?
That's where the opportunity
Wimbledon
is.
flops everywhere right now are thinking, next year's my year.
And Czech flops.
Barbora, I mean, do you remember when Barbora Krejcikova played Ash Barty here a few years ago?
Just after she'd won
Just
the French.
after she'd won the French. And I can't remember exactly what we said ahead of that match, but we were really bigging it up. And obviously it was en route to Ash Barty winning the title. You know, we didn't know it at the time, but Ash Barty was in title-winning form. But I remember the discussion being, this game absolutely makes sense on the grass. She really seems like she's going to back up that French Open win, and obviously that didn't quite happen. But it has always made sense. Like, maybe it's more of a surprise that she hasn't been doing anything like this for the past 3 years than that she's doing it now.
I would say so. And she's had ill health. She's had a lot to deal with. And I think she's probably doubted herself along the way. And, you know, people, when you do get to the top and win something big, people talk about you a lot more. You have to hear a lot more, don't you? And she's had to kind of reconstruct things, but this is quick. This is sudden. This isn't Paolini who's just reached a Grand Slam final and now is backing it up. I suppose it's more like Paolini from before the French, really, or certainly before this year, as I only know too well. But I mean, Krejcikova has just found something, and it's clicked, and much more like Vondrousova last year, yeah.
But it didn't click at the start. I mean, she barely got out of the first round,
Yeah.
right? But it's incredible what can happen here now. Is it somewhere in the middle of the tournament when everything's going on, we have no idea what court someone has a win, and it clicks.
Yeah.
Like last year for Vondrousova, like Donna lost to Vondrousova after Donna beat Sloane Stephens on court 1, and then it was in the middle of, like, in the third round, and I saw the quality, and I'm like, I never would have thought, like, oh my God, Vondrousova's level's unreal. I didn't know she'd go on to win it, but you never know when something clicks. And you're right, on a grass court, I think it catches, like, the confidence and the fire, because so many other people don't have it in the draw. So I think that's why if somebody catches it, they can win it.
Just on a total side note that has occurred to me as a result of what you've just said, does it help if the person you lost to early-ish goes on and wins a tournament or reaches the final? Like, would that have been comforting to Donna? Like, because obviously at the time she'd just beaten Sloane Stephens. That was that really high-profile, epic match. And then big letdown that she lost to, at the time, Vondrousova, which was like, oh, you've lost to Vondrousova. Then Vondrousova goes on and wins the whole thing. Does it change how you feel about the loss? Or does it make you think, oh, that could have been me?
A bit of both. I mean, I always thought it was better to lose to the champion. If I went out, I wanted to lose to whoever won it. But I think in the case when you lose in the third round, when you feel like it could be you that have that run and then they end up having the run, I'm not sure it makes you feel great, but I do think it brings more people in to feel they have a chance. Like, maybe it did give Donna that thought this year that she, as well as other things that went Donna's way. And I hope, you know, from my standpoint, I think I'm still be on the team in a year from now. I think she'll come into this Wimbledon, if she's totally prepared, believing, why not her? Why not?
Is she okay?
Yeah, she's fine. It was brutal. And she's, you know, she's on the coast in Croatia on a boat.
Good
doing
decision.
what she,
I'm
yeah,
glad
good,
to hear
you
that.
know,
David
Croatia
can
on the
attest to
coast.
that,
Yeah.
But
Bit hot for
the
me.
loss, it was devastating for everybody.
Yeah.
But better to feel devastated having had the feeling that you were in the mix to win your first ever major than to never have that experience before,
She
ever
was
again.
right there. She was right there. Did you feel at any point she's got it?
Having told Pam we wouldn't make her relive the trauma.
No,
too
I
I-
didn't say a word.
No, I was literally, I've never been so in the moment of point by point. Like when I played, I did it a little bit occasionally. But when she was up 8-7 in the match tiebreak, for one quick second, I'm like, oh boy, she's just, 2 points away. But now I know what can happen more than most, and so
That's the
I
sport.
stayed in the moment. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting, in Krejcikova's press conference, she was asked by Chris Clary, formerly of the New York Times, great author, now has his own Substack, very well respected tennis journalist of a long time. He asked about how much her doubles experience in finals and on the big stage mattered today, and obviously back in 2021 at the French as well, because she's across singles, doubles and mixed. This is from you, Pam. She's 12-1 in major finals, Barbora Krejcikova.
Wow.
And she
I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's good.
she said it's massive. It's massive. And he asked her whether she thinks she kind of resents or is saddened by the difference in status between singles and doubles. Like he was like, is the difference in perception of status, does it reflect the difference in how you feel winning singles to doubles? And she was like, look, this is great, it is different, but it's not as different as you would think it is.
Well, we actually showed on ESPN today, we showed her winning one of her Wimbledon doubles championships, and we could see the joy and the unbelievable satisfaction. And having closed out a few with Martina, you do feel an incredible joy, and I think it does help you in the singles. So it was one of the points I brought up today in our pregame show, was that I thought the doubles experience would matter. And I agree with Barbora, it did.
I think it massively did today. 12-1.
Yeah, that's massive, isn't it? Particularly given Paolini just doesn't have that. You know, she's reached this incredible feat of back-to-back major finals. She's also reached a doubles final, but she hasn't done that. That does feel significant now you think about it.
Yeah, there is something quite arresting, actually, about the fact that Paolini has been in this absolutely golden period of her career, and yet she's lost all the big finals. Like it doesn't quite feel right. It's kind of sad seeing her so sort of sad. When match point went and Krejcikova kind of turned to her box, my eyes immediately actually darted to Paolini, and she just sort of hung her head a little bit. And
It was tough seeing her sad, wasn't it? It was like, imagine seeing cameraman Matthew sad.
Yeah.
It would hurt my soul.
Yeah.
And it did. Look, she dealt with it
pretty sad last night
fantastically
when
today.
he was losing to me at King of the North.
Oh, David, there's a very tricky final round to come. I wouldn't. I'd just hold your horses. Look, and she deals with the sad incredibly well, but she was sad. I thought sadder than after the French Open final defeat.
I think so.
Today.
She was so much closer, wasn't she?
It's awful, sort of measuring levels of sad, isn't it? But
Yeah, she didn't have a chance at Roland
Right.
Garros. She had a chance today.
Yeah.
So it would definitely, in the fact that she lost the one 5 weeks ago, today definitely,
So-
it's understandable. It meant a lot more and hurt a lot more.
Yeah, it's two of the most. It feels to me like two of the most brutal ways you could lose a Grand Slam final. Like, not having a chance must feel, like kind of depressing. You're in this big moment and there's nothing you can do against Iga Swiatek, and then here you're so close and you can't quite get over the line either. Like, I think a lot of people are going to be pulling for Jasmine Paolini now. Like, she's won so many people over. I think she's going to be one of the most popular players around right now. Like, people are going to want this for her.
yeah, I think this is a really serious thing now with Jasmine Paolini. It's not just an underdog thing. It started out as an underdog thing, but I think it's kind of an Ons Jabeur thing, like just connecting with people somehow. Like, as much as I feel the same about Jasmine Paolini, totally won over. It's wonderful. I love seeing her get all this crowd support and people just getting her and getting her story. I did actually find it a bit awkward on match point. I found the immediate crowd response. It was fine in the end once she went up to her team and her box and had that embrace, and once she was collecting the trophy and giving her speech and talking so movingly about Jana Novotna, like, that was all fine. The crowd were really with that. But in that winning moment, it was quiet.
Yeah, it felt like the crowd
Awkwardly quiet.
had got to get over their disappointment for Jasmine Paolini for a few minutes. Oh, it's over. Oh, I was
Yeah.
really enjoying that. I was hoping she would win.
Especially as the final game was such a thriller, and I think a lot of people in their minds had thought, okay, we're going to get more of this.
Yeah.
Paolini's coming back. She's going to break back. We're possibly going to get a final set tie break. I think it was the majority of the crowd were pulling for Paolini, and B, they felt a bit shortchanged about the match ending when it did. But I guess because of what we know about Krejcikova from the past few years, I feel like she's a person and a player that would notice that.
So I feel like a little bit of the Jasmine Paolini thing was like, she's not from an Eastern European country. There's a little bit of bias in the crowd. And
Fairly or unfairly.
fairly
that
or unfairly.
exists.
That's why. And listen, I played doubles with Martina for 10 years. So I could see the biased.
And was that something she was aware of?
Oh, yes.
And did it bother her?
A little bit. But she felt it was also because she was, sort of seen as the stronger, more muscular, whatever. But it's just something that it's hard culturally through the years. And we could go on the men's side as well for Eastern European. I mean, maybe Medvedev's had the what did I call him? The wise guy? No.
Piece of work.
Piece of work. The piece of work has cut through, a little bit more.
But it's different for women, isn't it? That these are traits that are more accepted in men than they are in women.
Yeah,
Women,
true.
you have to emote. If you're not emoting, that's not typically feminine. Jasmine Paolini she's unthreatening. She's bubbly, and she is, and that's brilliant. But have you ever heard a man described as bubbly?
No.
It's
Or
just
being asked about their small. Oh, a pigeon! A pigeon just nearly got me. I go to the tennis podcast. Pam, the pigeon. I just felt the feathers on my head.
To check
All right,
pigeon.
sorry. I needed a reset. Okay, go
that
ahead.
was so close. I thought it was landing on Pam's head.
That was landing in my head. I'm leaving.
That was wow. So much flora and fauna.
Maybe it was because I was talking about like a touchy subject.
It
And
makes
it was
our
like,
wasp
get it,
feel
stop
like
it.
small fry.
But it is. I do think there's a difference between how those traits are accepted and responded to in a man versus a woman. Like, she's small and unthreatening and smiley. It's very important for a woman to be smiley. Just ask Elena Rybakina from a couple of years ago.
And ultimately, I just think people. I mean, yes, we might have to accept a bit of awkwardness and a bit of quietness, but I think people are who they are. I don't think you can change who you are, and
Did Martina try and change who she was, or
You know what?
change the outward?
Well, what happened with
Goodness.
Martina at the end of her extraordinary career, when she was trying to hang on and still win majors and get to major finals, they beloved the longevity. They beloved the fact that Martina had been through. They kind of realized all that she had been through, and then they embraced her at the end of her career, like with unbelievable responses.
also
it
more
took-
when she was vulnerable, because people don't like dominance. People find it hard to relate to in this country. I mean, this may well be different in America, because you love dominance in America, right?
Maybe
love-
in our
you love
team
greatness.
sports. Maybe in our team sports. Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, in England, we don't. I mean,
We're used
like
to being
underdogs.
rubbish at stuff, so we have to.
Oh, but except for like this tournament that's wrapping up tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on,
Come
Jude.
on, come on,
But I mean, that is definitely a thing. If I think back to Martina here, winning 9 titles, and she was never beloved until she started not winning everything, and then she was older, and then I think some of the affection started to come. I was watching that Conchita Martinez final of '94 when she's, it's extraordinary that she's even out there still. And the same happened with Ivan Lendl a little bit, and I think it's happening more with Djokovic. Okay, he's doing his absolute, most to try to still rail against people and the odd boo that he hears, he still reacts to because he's sensitive to it. But it's a lot warmer than it was 5 years ago towards him, and I'm sure that's because he's older. People are more used to him, and they realise, well, okay, there's a vulnerability coming through at times.
I also think, it's kind of on us as well, and it's like our role in the media to like not make Krejcikova interesting to people necessarily, but like to tell her story and to let people know stuff about her.
Let people know who she is, and if you find it
is.
interesting, great. Like
Exactly.
not everybody will, but that is on us, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's and there is obviously a very interesting part to Krejcikova's story, which is her connection, her years of working with Jana Novotna, and that was where I kind of, it can be quite difficult for the media in that sort of environment as well. Like in a press conference, asking Krejcikova, who's just won a Wimbledon title, a kind of joyous moment. There are going to be questions about Jana Novotna because they want to tell her story and they want to let people know and sort of let them connect with her. But it's kind of a difficult question to ask because it's a difficult subject for Krejcikova to talk about because of the fact that Novotna passed away, and it's sad. So that was a kind of slightly awkward thing in the press conference. I think a moment of triumph and sort of constant questioning about Novotna. I totally understand why it was done, and Krejcikova says what she wants to say, but it's not easy for kind of either party there. Like it's not easy for Krejcikova. It's not always that easy for the press either to just get it right tonally.
And it felt like there was a tension in Krejcikova's answers about, on one hand, just loving talking about Novotna and wanting to talk about her and wanting her to be a part of this story because to her she is, in her words, she changed her life. But also I did feel like there was an awareness from Krejcikova of, this is the story you want, isn't it? You want the Novotna angle on this, and you want to make me cry, and you want the picture of me crying on the back page of the paper tomorrow. And I felt that, and same as you, I saw it from every angle, but it was a strange tension.
Well, also, when you think about Novotna's story here, it's one of the most exceptional stories in the history of Wimbledon. The biggest failure, perhaps the biggest choke of all time, and then to think 5 years later she was able to conquer and win the singles title, because most times when you have that kind of a choke, you don't get a chance.
And she had others in between too,
And also probably the
Tough
royal
moments.
family photo, that moment with the Duchess of Kent was comforting her. That's probably one of the most famous photos in the history of the royal family. So Jana Novotna is like a legend in England because of her Wimbledon experience. So that's why it would carry over today so strong.
Got to say, that final game, Jana went through my mind.
Oh, me too. When
Because
the double
she
fault
was
at
struggling
30
there,
love.
And I thought, crikey, it'd be so easy for Barbora to think of it then, or to, just the human nature of, my dream is about to come true, and now I can't play.
So David's having empathetic thoughts. David and Pam are, and Matt's thinking she's never getting on the backhand list.
Not with that sort of
Not with
display.
this.
Not when it matters.
I will own that. Yeah. I also think Krejcikova maybe, kind of the press conference is the most traditional form of the press getting to know a player. The press conference has been around for so long, and maybe you're not going to get amazing answers from Krejcikova in a press conference environment. But even just that little Twitter Q&A that she did the other day with her fans, that is an insight into that she does want to engage and she does want to talk. And there was some good stuff in there. And look, I came across one today. One of the questions she was asked was, what message do you have for your fans that are part of the LGBT community? And she said that they are amazing and brave. Right? And a lot of players would have ignored that question.
Absolutely.
And she went out there as an ally and said that. And I saw that before the final, and I really liked that. And she is going out of her way to connect with fans in that environment. Okay, it's maybe not the fans who are on centre court watching, but I think she kind of is doing her bit. She is holding up her end of being a player and realizing that she has media responsibilities. And yeah, like, it's, as I said, it is on them, but it's also on us to kind of get that across, I suppose.
Is she having a Q&A now, by the way? Are we counter-programming to her Q&A?
Yeah.
And actually, just two things that did strike me on the court. One is that she faced down those demons in that last game, and she came through. You know,
Absolutely.
it's Mary who says, "Choke and win anyway," isn't it? And she choked, and yet she still won. You know, and that takes some guts.
And what about the serve on match point? The big one out wide. Classic. Unbelievable.
And the serve, I felt like, was the story for Krejcikova today. Like, in our preview show earlier on today, we were talking a lot about Jasmine Paolini's second serve being the vulnerable area, the key area in the matchup today, and it actually ended up being Krejcikova's second serve that was kind of decisive. That was getting attacked today. She won fewer points on it than Jasmine Paolini. In the first set, she was serving 90% first serves in, and that was reflective of her whole game in that first set. It was just an exemplary, beautiful set from Krejcikova. And then in set two, you know, Paolini goes for that reset, and she comes back, and Krejcikova won just 3 of 9 points behind her second serve in that second set. Now, she was still getting a good amount of first serves in, but from 90%, it was a big drop, and Paolini attacked it. And in the third set, okay, the numbers, it didn't go back to where it was in the first set, but it improved enough, and I felt like she made the serve in enough of the big moments that she was able to make it tell. But I did find that interesting that we didn't really talk much about the Krejcikova serve and what Paolini would do with it. We were all about, you know, what's Krejcikova going to do with Paolini's weak second serve.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned that, like, the Krejcikova serve had been so good against Ostapenko. Like, she served Ostapenko off the court in that match, and it was so bad at the start against Rybakina. She couldn't hold serve. Took her 8 games to hold serve, but once she got it firing, and once she ended up with breaks against Rybakina, she was closing sets really emphatically. And yeah, absolutely agree. Like, the serve was kind of what was helping to dictate how Krejcikova was playing, I think.
I was really handicapped because when Donna lost the first semi 7-6 in the third, you know, a lot of my next hour and a half was just helping her through that moment. So I actually didn't see hardly anything of the second semi. I saw the beginning a little bit, but I want to go back and watch that and see exactly how Krejcikova got it together. Because let's face it, at that point we thought it was all in for Rybakina to win her second.
Yeah.
But I always thought someone who'd won a major before, and it, you know, like, look out, still keep an eye on, and I'd love to watch that at some point.
And if you look, I mean, Krejcikova's run to the title there with Collins, Ostapenko, Rybakina, Paolini, I think all of them are top 8 in the race this year. Like, she's been playing in-form players, and, you know, okay, they're maybe not the absolute, you know, not all the biggest names, but they're the in-form players, and she's beaten them all. And, like, you know, she's said it before about Big Four, and, like,
Right.
Could you, like,
this is where I want to go
right.
next. Thank you, Matt.
like, could you maybe say now that, like, the Big Four's won the last 4 slams? Like, if you think like Goff, Sabalenka, Swiatek, Krejcikova, and it's not kind of the onus is on Rybakina now in the slams to kind of show up in the way she has been on the tour. She's won, you know, some 500s this year, but Rybakina's not really brought it at the slams, and Krejcikova now has 2. And
So it was about 15 months ago, wasn't it, that this Big Three, women's Big Three concept emerged of Sabalenka, who'd just won the Australian Open and beaten Rybakina, the reigning Wimbledon champion at the time, in an epic final. And you had Iga Świątek, of course, is a dominant world number 1 and French Open champion, and then as of the US Open, it became a Big Four. But it was around about 15 months ago that the Big Three became a thing, And it was also around about that time that Barbora Krejcikova said, well, hang on a second, you say big three, I say big four, I've won a Grand Slam. And she ended up coming to really regret that, didn't she? Because she was kind of laughed out of town, and she lost a lot of matches soon after saying that. But she's now won as many Grand Slams as Aryna Sabalenka, more than Elena Rybakina and Coco Gauff. Like, is this not vindication for Barbora Krejcikova?
Well, I think it is a little bit. I think one element that we need to remember was when Krejcikova beat Swiatek in a couple of finals. Because
Ostrava.
So was it twice in Ostrava?
Ostrava and Dubai.
Okay, Ostrava and Dubai. Because who's been able to figure out very often Swiatek in a final? So while they weren't majors, they got our attention because it was stopping Swiatek in a final. But you're right. I think she enters the fray again.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, obviously Big Four has come out of a term that was used in the men's game, and like they were defined by their incredible consistency. Like, it wasn't just that they were winning the big titles; they were winning them all the time, like, and the tour titles. And I don't think necessarily that Krejcikova is going to have that level of consistency. I do think she's going to be someone who, well, as her career has shown so far, pops up and is capable of winning. And that's kind of why the term generally doesn't quite feel like it fits on the current situation of women's tennis. Like, you've got these players who are kind of picking up the big titles and getting to the latter stages. And in Swiatek's case, they're really consistent on the tour. And, you know, Sabalenka and Rybakina and Gauff have been pretty consistent as well. Not winning as much as Swiatek, but it just doesn't quite feel like the right term. But I think if you're talking about contenders for big titles, then Krejcikova has to be in there because of her record, beating Swiatek in finals, winning 2 majors now. Like, she's proven it. Like, when she's fit, when she's playing well, her best tennis can live with anyone. And yeah, like, she absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. What we're naming it might be
Right.
might be the issue.
Right.
And I do think that if you go back and listen to when she said what she said, I think it was more that I'd like to be considered part of a big four, not that you should be calling me
Right.
that. And unfortunately, her form just dropped off a cliff, and she got bad injuries. And then it was, I'm afraid that is one of the things that I think we in the media sometimes do a little, is put things back in someone's face when they've said something, and then they feel a bit embarrassed and awkward about it. But my word, the second thing I wanted to just say, just a final thing about this thing, is I've loved both of her Grand Slam celebrations. Yes, it was a bit awkward for a couple of minutes, but when she actually speaks, the wonder in her eyes, the realization, the way she looked at that Venus Rosewater dish, and she was almost scared to touch it, and when she took it like it was the most precious thing in the world. And that's just how she was when she won Roland Garros. And I thought, you know, if you wanted to define visually and audibly what is it like to win a Grand Slam title, just show them her celebrations.
And to win it in front of Navratilova, sitting in the royal box, from her born in her home country, having won 9.
And there was an incredible moment backstage where, you know, she goes into the clubhouse and she's meeting all of the past champions that were in the royal box, and there were so many of them today. It was wonderful. And, you know, Marion Bartley, Martina Navratilova, Christine Truman was in there as well, former finalist. That was wonderful to see. And she did a bow to them. It was so sort of in the moment, and just clearly encapsulated the reverence that she has for them, and you love to see it, don't you? It was incredibly special. What now? What now for Barbora Krejcikova?
Party.
Well, you know what? This is where I feel like she's going to learn a lot from what she went through when she won Roland Garros, and then she actually didn't back it up too badly. She was certainly in there, but I think I think she's got a better chance of experience-wise, sort of understanding what it takes now to stay there. But look, we'll see. We can't. It's really hard to go to bank on anything in women's tennis right now, except for Swiatek on clay. Everything else
true.
seems a little bit like maybe.
Even Swiatek
Yeah.
on hard court, you would remove from the.
Well, she's not a sure thing. I mean, it's there's just so many questions, which means there's so many opportunities for a lot of people.
Donna Vekic.
Exactly. So don't be on the Croatian sea too long.
But ultimately, I mean, you know, it's great to build narratives about a few players and rivalries, but it is also just awesome when you just don't know what's going to happen next, and someone comes out and makes their run, and they've got to try and break through the ones that have already won in the past. I love it every single time.
The problem is, David, that we run a predictions competition.
We've made it very.
One? Or you have?
Oh no! So there's no need to go into details
We've made
of
it
how
It's just a
anybody's
nightmare,
faring.
Pam.
Yeah.
So
There's
let me
12
just-
years of evidence of us
there
being
was-
rubbish at this, so it's fine.
There was a match going on earlier in the tournament between Lulu's son and Emma Raducanu, and it was just bizarre. I was sitting up there watching because Donna had to play the winner, and I'm like, oh my goodness, here's a qualifier on a run playing Raducanu. So she's staring the person in the face that would give her the most. So that's kind of where women's tennis is at the moment, like still fueled by someone like Raducanu coming out of qualifying.
And every one of these stories is giving hope and belief to
Bingo.
the next person that could be Emma Raducanu or Barbora Krejcikova or Marketa Vondrousova.
Unlike my era, where I ran into, Everett, Groff, and Groff in my 3 semifinals. I said that to Donna the other day. I would have killed to play Jasmine
Did you actually
Paolini.
say that to
I
her?
didn't say it quite like that. But I mean, like, literally, like,
I thought that was an off-the-record comment.
now it's on the record.
Glad you said it before the match and not after the match, Pam.
fair point.
However you said it.
I did. I let her know, like, this is a great opportunity. Like, I was shut out. Like, I had 18 majors, 22 majors, 22 majors.
She got
You were
close.
Andy Murray.
Yeah, but Andy got through
Yeah.
3 times with an couple of Olympic golds.
Donna's getting closer.
Well, the men's doubles final was on. Obviously, we were tracking the score, but we were also looking up draws where Pam was double bageling opponents.
Oh, okay.
There were a few of them.
Yeah, it's great. Your first Wimbledon.
Pam's Bakery.
First one, my second match here, but this shows you the depth. Okay, back in '78, I'm like turning 16 that fortnight, and I won my first 2 matches. I won it 3-3. My first match, really nervous, and my second one 0-0. Like, that's the depth. Like, now there's not a chance. You got to be ready to go from the very first round. The depth is incredible now.
So were you kind of aware of that in your day, the respective lack of depth, like
No.
how you treated early rounds?
No,
like-
because we didn't know the difference.
Right.
But I can see it now, like 46 years later, like it's difference in night and day. It's much harder to win a major now, even though like we were locked out because, I played in the era where kind of like similar to what the men have been through the last 20 years where like you had 4 women dominate, right? But now, look, I mean, maybe you can come in and it's your moment, but it's just the effort it takes to get through. There's so many matches along your path that you have no idea if you're going to if you're going to win it. Look at Krejcikova's first round. What,
Yeah.
2 point, what match point down or within a couple of points of
Within a
losing?
couple, I think, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Kudermetova, opening round. I love those stories of, either match point saved or almost ran. Angelique Kerber match point down to Misaki Doi in the opening round of the Australian Open that she won. Wozniacki being match point down to Jana Fett
Sliding doors.
in the second round of the Australian Open.
So
she
2
won.
years in a row, the winner here has beaten Kudermetova first round. I think Vondrousova last year. So somebody commented that on
So
Twitter.
Donna to draw Kudermetova
Kudermetova
round
next
1
year.
next year.
That's what everyone's going to want to draw, Kudermetova.
We are going to touch upon the other results that we've had today before we have a quick chat about the men's final, the men's singles final tomorrow, Pam. We have a preview show tomorrow at midday, but you all want Pam's thoughts, really, don't you? So
I do.
yeah, absolutely, me too. And I will just recycle them
Yeah.
for our preview show tomorrow. But do tune in; it's going to be great. Other results that we've had today, David, you've just watched Harry Heliövaara of Finland and Brit Henry Patton defeat Max Purcell and Jordan Thompson in an epic match. 6-7, 7-6, 7-6, 11-9 in the deciding set tie-break. Not a sniff of a break anywhere.
No, and yet truly dramatic. And because the result that you ended up with is the opposite that you looked like you would end up with until the last point, until the very last point, because the Australians were in the ascendancy. I mean, it was very close. There were hardly any points being dropped on serve, and it goes with Matt's view that actually, just as a spectator sport, the women's doubles is a better watch really a lot of the time for the points than the men's tennis, where it's just serve dominated a lot of the time. I mean, there was a couple of points going against the serve in that first set, but then it got dramatic, and so the Australians are winning that first set tiebreak 6-1, and then they lost 6 points in a row. And I mean, listen, some of this was incredible shot making from Heliövaara and Henry Patton, who's a left-hander, 6'6". He's a big guy, and off the back foot, he's able to create incredible power from the baseline with his forehand. He just, a couple of times, he just whipped the ball through the defences of players at the net, and it was quite eye-watering how hard he hit the ball. But even so, they got to 7-6, the Brit and the Finnish player, and then they lost that tiebreak. So they're set down. All the chances came for their opponents in the second set as well, and they lost that. Then you go into the third set, and in the final set, 10-point tiebreak, it was, I think it was 5-2 to Thompson and Purcell. They had 3 championship points in the match, and they didn't win. Now, I got to say, I thought Heliövaara and Patton were unreal in the tight moments. Like, they came up with a diving lunge volley to save one championship point, another Patton forehand. But I'm telling you, I don't think there are 2 players. I mean, maybe because they're laid-back Australians, they won't be like this. Maybe I know that's a massive stereotype, but I don't think there are 2 players that will sleep worse than those 2, based on what I saw in this match. Because I'm sorry to say, they really did let that go.
You could see their faces when they shook hands. I
Tough
mean, they were
scene.
very sporting, but when you could see the camera follow them, I mean, devastation times 5.
They were like the better team until the crucial moments, all the way through the match.
Do they need to go to the Croatian coast?
I would advise it. I really felt for them, and yet actually for the winning team. I mean, it was brilliant, because suddenly, like, it was really quiet at the start. They're following a brilliant, 3-set singles final. It's half full, serve dominated. People looked pretty bored really for the first hour, and then by the end, it's 15,000 people standing ovation, and 2 players on the back and one on his knees. It was fantastic.
Is this Finland's first ever Wimbledon title?
Matt loves being put on the spot about stats.
Sorry, I'm just trying to think. Jarkko
I
Nieminen
can't
didn't
think
win
of
one.
anybody else who won one.
No, it's got to be. I think
Has
it's her
to
first.
be.
Anyway,
We'll double check,
Where-
but I
we'll
Where
have
was
it for you
Continent
tomorrow.
from? He wasn't Finnish.
Oh, yes.
He's
Yes.
I think he
He
is.
won
Yeah.
mixed.
And he
Did he
won
won a
mixed.
mixed?
Did win one, yes.
Oh, look
Yes.
at Matt. God, way to
Yes.
go.
By the way, we do know that the women's doubles final is currently ongoing, and Gabby Dabrowski, Matt's favourite player, and her partner Erin Routliffe are currently serving for the first set, and we will be covering that tomorrow. Don't worry. They're taking on Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend in that final. We've had some other finals today. Diede de Groot beat Aniek van Koot in the women's wheelchair singles final 6-4, 6-4. It's her 23rd Grand Slam singles title.
Wow.
The last Grand Slam singles title she didn't win, de Groot, was the French Open in 2020.
Decent
That
run.
was the one in October.
Right. Does
See?
it even
Does that
count,
count?
Pam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12 in a row is possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, has her 16th in a row. and sixth Wimbledon overall, and fourth in a row. Absolutely bonkers. We also had the quad wheelchair doubles final today. Sam Schroeder and Niels Vink beat Andy Lapthorne and Guy Sasson 3-6, 7-6, 6-3. It's their 9th Grand Slam doubles title together and their 3rd consecutively at Wimbledon.
It's great. You know what? Being in the warm-up area with Donna before and seeing all that the different wheelchair athletes go through to get themselves ready in the gym, it was so impressive. I found it so inspiring.
Right. Have you ever tried it?
No. I've done like one up, one down, but I haven't. You mean tried it as far as being in a chair?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to.
That was a good match. I was on that match with Lapthorne and
Sasson,
yes, against Schroeder and Vinks, and that was close. I mean, they were 6-3 and they were 2-5 down, and then suddenly they were 6-5 up, and they'd got one game away, and they're in the tie break. It's just such small margins, isn't it? This sport.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's wonderful seeing the crowds they get here for the wheelchair matches and how into it they are, because
I don't think
it's a great watch.
It's impossible not to get into it if you bother going and have a look. You
absolutely.
Get into it.
Absolutely, well said. The men's singles final tomorrow, Pam. Oof. Carlos Alcaraz against Novak Djokovic. I know you'll be at a New Forest spa.
Yes. Going to see the wild ponies tomorrow. But I plan on watching. We're going to get down there in time to, if Kate will allow, we'll watch the men's singles final a little bit.
Kate is Pam's daughter that is so supportively
so
sat through this recording.
Yay, Kate. First off, have we ever looked forward to a rematch of a final more than this one? I mean, maybe we did during the era of the big, but this feels because it's not.
I love a bit of recency bias.
I think it's quite
Pam.
similar. I think, when I think Federer and Nadal played 3 in a row here, finals, it feels quite similar to me.
And I remember last year, such a big element to that final, certainly to me, was like there's such a premium on seeing Alcaraz Djokovic because they're at such different stages of their career. Like, we might not get many of these.
This might be it.
Right, and now a year on, we've got another one, and that's pretty enticing.
So, how much will it resemble, both in match look and feel, and in result? How much do you think it'll resemble what we saw last year?
Well, it's one of the most legendary situations where you have somebody that had surgery a month ago, right? Djokovic, and yet he's come through to this final. I mean, of course he's been tested. You're tested in every match you play. But this feels like 3 levels above any other test he had. I mean, Rune, we thought maybe would test him more. And then...
We thought wrong, Pam.
Massetti had more... It gave him a lot more time. He didn't have to, be super violent in his movement. It's crazy to say the 7th match of the tournament, he's finally going to be tested. So I feel like we don't know a bit still about Djokovic.
Is there an element, and this is in no way a prediction that the same thing will happen tomorrow, but that situation of not really knowing how tested they've been until they come up against the top level, it reminds me a bit of the Australian Open final 2019. Djokovic against Nadal. 2019? Right, yeah. Djokovic against Nadal. They'd both looked incredible, but it wasn't until Nadal faced Djokovic that you realised
the levels were different.
Nadal's incredible had been against a certain level of opponent, and it wasn't incredible against Djokovic.
I can see why you're thinking that.
I'm not really thinking that. I'm just... I'm throwing it out there.
Like
I don't think that's going to happen because I just don't think Carlos Alcaraz wins in straight sets. Like, that's just not his vibe.
And the thing is, like, and the thing is, like, Nadal had a big matchup problem with Djokovic on a hard court. Like, he hadn't won a set against Djokovic on a hard court for many, many years, even before that final.
True.
I think. And has Alcaraz looked incredible?
No.
He's been incredible
in patches.
He's been incredible at times, but he's not played a full match start to finish that's been incredible.
But I almost think that might be the vibe for his whole career.
But he was this time last year. He played really, really well against Rune and Medvedev, and he came into that final, and yes, he froze a bit in the first set, and then he was great. And I
true.
mean, I think he was in better form last year, certainly more consistent form.
I think they both were in better form. Like, I know Djokovic has looked great, but
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I think
yeah.
Djokovic has been in really good form for what he's got right now, which is, you know, like a lot, like more than most. But he is just coming off surgery, and like, I think Djokovic right now at this stage of his career, 37, needs to be absolutely full pelt to beat full pelt Alcaraz. I guess the question is, do we get full pelt Alcaraz? And if he does have the dips that he's been having, I think if anyone, like, people have come close to exploiting them. Francis Tiafoe was very close to beating him. I know that was indoors, and that's less good for Alcaraz. But, you know, if anyone can, it will be Djokovic. But I just think Alcaraz will step it up tomorrow.
And think how Djokovic has relished situations like going back to Australia and winning after they chucked him out. Like, like, I think this challenge to win a month after surgery.
Lose twice to the same
and
guy.
that what happened last
And
year.
that Cincinnati final last year, you know, I mean, which was Alcaraz won the first set of that, and Djokovic came back to win. You
How
know,
many
two
times have
tight
they
ones.
played since Cincinnati last year?
They played at the ATP finals in Turin, and it was, I mean, it was competitive, but it was
3-2.
fairly straightforward.
But they haven't
for-
played
for
this year,
Djokovic.
right?
No.
Right.
And I personally, I don't read too much into that Turin
No.
match for various different reasons. But so hang on, when you say you think Alcaraz isn't going to have those dips, do you think he's going to win the first set? Because he's not into winning first sets.
No, he's really
He's
not.
lost the
And-
last first sets he's played.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Last
that's...
two of them.
Look, I know he came back last year to beat Djokovic after losing the first set, but so few people do that. It was kind of... Stan Wawrinka had been a guy who'd managed to do that against Djokovic over 5 sets, and, you know, it's I don't think it's a sustainable strategy.
No.
Against Novak Djokovic.
I think it's a
Trying to
strategy.
do it.
Right? Yeah, he's not trying, but I think if Djokovic wins the first set, like, to me, he becomes the favourite. And that's not to say that Alcaraz can't win, but Djokovic is so good when he wins the first set. And I know last year's final goes against that, but I still think, as I said yesterday, on another day, Djokovic wins last
He
year's
probably
final.
should
He
have won
had
it. Yeah.
chances. He really did.
Sort of looking at the flip side of that coin, if Alcaraz wins the first set, I'll worry for Djokovic.
100%.
Yeah, agreed.
So eyes on the first set,
For-
head to a Croatian beach for the rest of the match.
You know, it's interesting when you think about a year ago, this match was in the middle of 3 such memorable matches. The French Open, where Alcaraz ran into the physical problems and really wasn't the same after a set apiece or whatever. And then here was so memorable. And then Cincinnati was probably one of the greatest regular tour matches that we'll all remember forever.
Yeah.
So we haven't really had the build on since then. So I'm kind of looking forward to, because you're right, Turin, I didn't even remember they played. So I can't wait for tomorrow.
And I have to say, as much as we're talking about Djokovic's knee, he's pretty emphatic in his press conference after beating Mazzetti that he thinks the knee's fine. Like, he says that he's not experiencing any issues. And look, that might come back to has he been
Full training,
truly
yeah.
tested and, you know, against a guy who is so many levels above. But like, I suppose he's not going to go into a Wimbledon final and say my knee's a problem. Like, he's not going to do that. But he sounded pretty emphatic and confident. And
I know this is so hypothetical, so I'm not going to put it to you two because we'll be able to talk about it not in the hypothetical should it happen. But Pam, you will be in a New Forest spa this time tomorrow. So I'm going to put it to you. If Novak Djokovic does it tomorrow, 39 days after knee surgery, at age 37, where will it rank among his achievements?
Well, it also puts him above Margaret Court, right? So then he
Right.
becomes. I think actually the
clear leader.
25th would be his finest achievement. I think at this stage of the game, given everything, yeah, I think it's.
Wow.
I think it becomes number one.
Yeah, I think I'd put it up there with like beating Nadal twice at Roland Garros. I still think that's such an underrated thing that he's done. Like he's gone to Nadal's house and beaten him there twice, and but yeah, like it would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be beating the defending champion, who's 21, while he's 37, and he's just had knee surgery.
Yeah, it's
What?
it's ridiculous.
And
that
he
it's
hasn't won a
even
tournament since Turin.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
This year.
Like it's
yeah.
not just the knee surgery. It's like what was he doing in the months leading up to Roland Garros?
Yeah.
Not his
Yeah,
usual.
before the knee
form wasn't
surgery, we
good.
were talking about his form being bad, as Matt is rightly always pointing out. Wow, one more day of Wimbledon 2024. Incredible. And Rafael Nadal has drawn Leo Borg in the opening round in Borstad. That's a thing that's happening.
It's crazy.
I always wanted to see Nadal ball.
Right. I'm not
On
sure
clay.
it'll look like... Who knows? We'll all be tuning in, won't we?
And,
We
and
will
he's
all
playing
be tuning
and he's
in.
playing doubles with Casper Ruud.
Yes.
Nadal, not Leo Borg.
Which is incredible, isn't it?
Well, he's
I mean,
trying to get
that's-
ready for Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Nadal.
Right. It's
So
cool.
Trying to win a gold in
He's
doubles
he's
again.
trying to come back and win the singles
Right.
at the Olympics. I mean,
He's not going to win the singles. He could win the doubles though.
Pam Shriver writes off Nadal at Roland Garros.
Pam,
Okay, I'll unwrite them all.
we have our Wimbledon mascot, Maverick. Hello to Maverick. Hello to Carol, Maverick's owner. Hello to our mascots. I have the dearly departed Darwin. David has Francis and Matt has Haida and Soma. Hello to Billie Jean, sponsored by Billie Jean King and Alana Kloss. One of those, of course, that Barbora Krejcikova bowed to backstage in the clubhouse today. It was such a wonderful moment. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Jamie, Jeff, Chris and Greg. We salute you. And it's over to Matt, and I'm sure with inserts from Pam for the shout
I
outs.
can't wait.
This is what I've been waiting
Love
for.
it. Come on.
We have Kim Ferguson.
Kim Kleisters.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a Ferguson, isn't there?
Sarah.
Who had tennis,
Who went out
Link.
with Thomas Muster.
who allegedly went out with Thomas Muster, yeah. He always denied
Can
it.
you confirm the allegations?
No, all I know is that a Sun reporter turned up at the Queen's Club in my first ever year there and followed Thomas Muster around for about 3 days, leaning over practice railings, asking him whether he'd got Sarah Ferguson with him.
And did he?
He was also leaning over and asking Thomas Muster's training partner, Andrea Gaudenzi,
Oh.
who's now the ATP
Wow.
CEO.
And did he have Sarah Ferguson with him?
Don't know.
So nobody
Didn't see her.
knows.
A lot of rumours.
Okay.
Thomas Muster always
There's
denied
other
them.
Kims. I'm trying to think of other Kims.
Birrell.
Kim.
Oh.
There was a male Kim from Australia. Kim Warwick.
Ow.
Kim Warwick. Sorry. But it's the bruise from the other day, right?
Kim Craven, a former umpire,
Wow.
who John McEnroe used to give a hard time to.
Kim Murray,
Yes.
wife of Andy,
Yeah.
of Parental Advisory, Explicit Lyrics T-shirt fame,
Yeah.
and other bits of fame. Okay.
Kim's getting
Uh-oh.
some
I feel
good value.
pressure. For the
And
next
Alex
one.
Ferguson, who was present for Andy Murray's 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, and
And
you
Who
doorstepped
I
him, didn't
doorstep
you?
interviewed.
Yeah.
I did my best Pam Shriver.
Thank you, Kim.
Actually, you gave us quite a nice segue onto the next shout out because we've got Andrea Kavanagh, or Andrea Kavanagh.
Oh,
Like,
Andrea Jaeger, Andrea Leanne, Andrea Gaudenzi.
Pam's good at
Pam's
this.
great at this.
Pam's sometimes when we can't think of anyone, we get a text at about 3 a.m. from Pam.
Just a link to a random Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Petkovic.
Yes.
Very good.
You're flying.
Yeah.
Very good. Do we know anything about Andrea?
In Dublin, and the owner of a rescue Welsh collie dog.
Oh,
We like rescue pets.
we do.
Oh, how lovely.
Kate's rescued a few cats.
Oh, lovely.
Well, 2.
The Shriver Menagerie,
And
where there's interspecies relations.
On we go.
well, actually, again, you bring me on nicely to Adrian Grubler.
Adrian.
All right,
Like
Adrian.
Adrian
Manarino.
Quest. Adrian Quest, one of the greatest doubles players of all time from Australia. Adrian Manarino.
How
Yeah.
is this related to interspecies love?
Because Adrian says, I have a dog, Rocky, and a cat, Cinnamon, who
Aw.
love each other.
Oh, so it'd be like
Just
bow
like-
and dart.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's lovely.
And they have just moved from New York to Dallas, so they're excited to have a 500 event in Dallas.
I mean, they had a Grand Slam event in New York, but Dallas is great too. Amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's it.
Thank you to all of our shout out friends. Thank you to all of our friends of the Tennis Podcast. You keep the show on the road, if it is on the road right now, just about hitting the skids. Yeah, thank you. We are very grateful. We will be back for 2 more shows tomorrow. 1 more podcast at the end of play tomorrow, wrapping up the men's singles final. Every other match that's happened tomorrow. We'll of course be back with our Wimbledon review show exclusively for friends of the Tennis Podcast. So if you want to become a friend, the link to do that is in our show notes. But we will also be back with a preview show of the men's singles final tomorrow at midday.
Think so.
Midday tomorrow, folks. Midday.
Great promo, David.
Midday.
I don't have my schedule yet.
Live on YouTube. If there are any changes, we will of course let you know and communicate that as clearly and soon as possible. But the plan is for midday, folks. Please do join us for that. We won't be putting it up as a podcast because the takes go out of date so quickly.
Especially if it's at midday.
Absolutely. But it'll stand on YouTube forevermore because the internet can't be scrubbed apparently. So yeah, one more day of Wimbledon 2024. No more days for New Forest Spa Pam.
Yeah. Massage and facial coming up next.
Pam, no one has earned it
Ugh.
as much as you.
Thanks for helping my work day today. I had a blast tonight. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank
our
you,
pleasure.
Pam.
We love you, Pam. Thank you very much for coming on the Tennis Podcast and generally being just a ray of sunshine in all of our lives. We are very grateful. And Matt is waiting for his plaque
Oh,
on your court.
on the home court. Kate, we need to get a plaque together for Matt.
What's he done to deserve that?
He's hit a couple of great shots on my court. March of 2023.
Okay.
He was
I would
gonna-
like to say that I didn't request the plaque. It was offered to me.
Yeah. Hands were bitten off.
Yeah, oh, I accepted the offer. Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep you posted on the plaque, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Do hit the like and subscribe button if you're joining us live on YouTube. Thank you to everybody that has been with us on this Wimbledon journey on YouTube, via the podcast, however you've been listening to and or watching us. It has been a joy and I can't believe there's only 1 more day to go, but it's going to be a good one, folks. Please do join us tomorrow from the 4 of us, the 5 of us, the 6 of us,
Go England tomorrow night.
The 7 of us.
the 7 of us.
Come on,
Yes,
Jude.
Pam. Yes. We'll see you tomorrow.